Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the second episode of the North Andover Journal. My name is Morgan Healy.
And I'm Ron Carpenito.
And this magazine format show highlights the town of North Andover, what's going on in the community, different ways to get involved, and what you can do in order to give back. I'm very excited about it. How are you feeling?
I'm extremely excited about it. It's actually my first show here with North Andover Cam. And we're new to the community, about 2 years here now, living up by the library area. Have a daughter in Atkinson School and just want to give back to our community and learn more about it.
Absolutely. Well, North Andover, as we all know, is a fantastic community, not only for families, but elder folk and kids of my generation as well. And contrary to popular belief, there is actually a lot going on, which we're hoping to highlight. So what do you think, Ron? Shall we dive right into it?
I think so, Morgan. Let's jump right in right now. Are you filling up for a dip this winter?
If it's warm water, absolutely.
Right, a nice warm swim in a tropical setting does sound great. But what about off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts in February? For most people, this sounds crazy. But Susan Roquard, one of our North Andover neighbors, was up for the challenge. Susan is president of the North Andover Rotary Club, and she joined hundreds of participants in their annual polar plunge that took place recently at Gloucester's Long Beach to benefit eradicating polio worldwide. Let's take a look.
Polar Plunge is actually a district-wide fundraiser that is generated through the efforts of the Rotary Club and many of our friends. I wasn't the only crazy person from our club. We had a Rotary Youth Exchange student from Belgium who's here for a year, and he actually had his own group of people that he was soliciting for to support him, and he and I went in together. The number one question I get asked is, how long were you in? I went in, dove in head first, and then just as soon as you can get, the water sloshed up. There was over 350 people there diving in at the same time, so the water's quite stirred up. So just getting your feet back up underneath you and then out of the water as fast as you can. It was a fundraiser. We are fundraising through the end of March. All proceeds go to the Rotary Foundation, which supports worldwide efforts, most specifically for the eradication of polio worldwide.
Did you know polio has been reduced by 99% and can only be found in 3 countries in the entire world? Through the Rotary's efforts, we are closer than ever to ending this crippling disease. You can donate to the Polio Plus Polar Plunge by visiting northandoverrotary.com. Their donation link will only be available until March 1st, and while you're on their website, check out some of the other programs and fundraisers the club is working on and learn how you can get involved. Morgan?
So the truth is, you are never too old to try something new.
Absolutely.
I personally love this mentality.
Right.
There's a lot to learn out there in the world, and here in North Andover at the Edgewood Retirement Community, they are working to challenge the stereotypes of old age by offering many different activities and programs for its residents. One of those activities is a brand new theater group that has already put on a few different performances. Let's check out what they have to say.
My name's Paula Kelley, and I'm the Director of Wellbeing here at Edgewood Retirement Community, and I've been here for 8 years. My position involves addressing the needs of residents as far as physical fitness, socializing, emotional well-being. About a year ago, I went to another community and they had a program that I was very interested in. They were doing plays for the residents, and I said, why can't we do that here at Edgewood? So started a group of about 12 to 13 people, and we read poetry, and then we would read a one-act play. And I said, let's take the show on the road, and the road here is the auditorium, and so we put on our first performance on December 16th. We selected a play based on a reading that we had done at one of our sessions, and everybody enjoyed the play. It was a 2-act play. It was comedy, and I said we need to do an audition, so I selected 4 residents to play the main roles. We had no idea what to expect. I mean, we had no idea how many people would come, and you know, it's a big room. It seats about 200 people. I made up 90 programs for the evening in case, but I said I'll probably throw out most of these programs, and it ended up that we didn't have enough programs. So that tells you it was over a full house. We used up all the chairs. It was about 115 people in there that night, and they loved it so much that we had to put on an encore performance. We also have a group of residents who love poetry, and they're also in that same group with the actors. So one night I said, let's just do a night of poetry reading, and that was also a successful event because we have a lot of residents who just love poetry here. And the great thing about it was we got some residents to come out who tend to be isolated and read poetry in front of an audience, and that was so rewarding to me. Some of the residents do have a theater background, but there's quite a few that have shown up for the audition. As a matter of fact, one gentleman showed up 2 weeks ago in an audition, and he's in his mid-80s, and he said, I've always wanted to do theater. And he has quite the acting ability. Our next performance is on March 18th. We're doing 2 one-act comedies starring 4 Edgewood residents that did audition for their roles. Again, it was very difficult turning people away. And then we're going to do another poetry evening in April. But my real goal here is to do a show with residents and staff. So that's probably further down the road this year. The show is open to the public, family members, staff members, anybody is invited. It's free. It's in the auditorium here at Edgewood at 7:30 on March 18th.
Now, I think this is a fantastic initiative to have here at town, especially for the elderly generation, just so they can keep the positivity going and stay involved. I mean, I know that I studied theater, and I know that you're a little bit into it too, right, Ron?
Absolutely. I love doing a lot of MC work for charity events, you know, up on stage, big festivals in towns, things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Having a voice in the community. I've done
Yeah.
MC and hosting work myself, which I guess is why we're both here. But
Yeah. It's very exciting.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, a good way to keep them engaged.
Keep the mind sharp, keep them active. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and it really does, you know, promote the arts. I'm all about promoting the arts and performance, and it's just such a healthy way to get involved, and you know, really breeds camaraderie and a lot of other really positive stuff here in the community. So if you want to learn more about this, you can visit Edgewood on the web at edgewoodrc.com or call them at 978-725-3300.
Our Senior Center update with our North Andover Senior Center is one of the most active places in town these days. They're offering lots of classes and events, and we're lucky to have a Senior Center member with us this evening, Mr. Lester Rugg. We love Lester here at the station, and he's going to let us know what's coming up. Lester?
My name is Lester Rugg. I'm in and out of the Senior Center all the time. My ears seem to be at the ground level of acquiring facts, times, and places. My job today is to tell you what's going on at the Senior Center. We have a very popular class. It's a one-on-one computer sessions, been very, very popular. It meets on Thursday for 45-minute slots. The substitute instructor is very, very good. His name is George Corey, and he has an IT background there and is more than willing to work with each individual on a one-to-one basis. That's the one that's most comfortable for all of us. On another note, I always talk about the walking group. The walking group is ongoing. In the winter months, it's at the youth center, and we meet at 9 o'clock, and it's growing. We're up to 13 now, and I have to tell you, exercise is important for all of us. Another note, we have a gym that meets in the afternoon, and it's a new class that started in September. We've had 2 sessions so far. The lady's name, I think I have it here somewhere, Margaret Moon Hames. She's a very proficient artist. She'll take you from where you are. Most of the people at the present time are working in watercolor, and it's another thing that's going on at the center. The next one I should touch on, I think, is probably our our Congressman John Turney, is part of the lecture series, and he will be here on Monday, March 24th. That's between 10 and 11:30. By the way, don't forget the state representative, Diana DiZoglio. She's hosting a luncheon from 12 to 2 on March 10th, Monday. It's an informational meeting and discussion. Some day trips that are of interest. I'm going to touch on those if I may. An Irish celebration featuring Ronan Tynan, and it will be March 12th on a Wednesday. It's going to be at the Venus de Milo, I should say, and that's in Swansea, Massachusetts. There's a luncheon, show, and transportation. Check with our program coordinator, Carla. Debbie Reynolds is also kind of scheduled as a possibility at with the Mohegan Sun, and includes transportation. And that one, let me see, deadline to sign up is March 12th. Check with the program director as well. If you need medical transportation, doctor or therapy appointments, call Paula and make an appointment. It's at 978-688-9860. There are some little expenditures, but it's reasonable. They do need 1 week advance notice, but I wanted to touch on that because it's certainly worthwhile. Transportation and van trips are always of need for many of our participants. Coming up, we have the New England Spring Flower Show. That's at the Seaport World Trade Center in Boston. Tickets are $22, and they include admission to the flower show, transportation. We have a limit, though, a limit of 12, so you need to sign up as early as possible. And the fact is, we do depart by 9:30 in the morning. And that concludes our initial recap of the news from the Senior Center. Take it away.
Thank you, Lester. I love Lester. He's awesome.
He seems like a great guy.
He's salt of the earth.
I enjoy him. He is.
And if you need more information about any of these classes or trips, please call 978-688-9560 or visit the Senior Center and talk to the reception desk. They'll take good care of you.
I'm sure they definitely will.
Morgan?
So, being a journalism major, I'm very excited to talk about the North Andover Citizen and offer a great big thanks. Producing the Journal here at North Andover CAM takes a lot of work and a lot of different resources from many people in town. So we just like to take time to offer a special thanks, to editor Tim McCarthy over at the North Andover Citizen, who will be providing us with stories to share with you as the months go on. The Citizen is available at many local convenience stores in town, and of course online at northandover.wickedlocal.com. Ron?
Thank you. And can you believe it? It's already time for elections again, and the annual ballot for the annual Springtown election has been locked in, and races for selectmen, school committee, and the Greater Lawrence Technical High School representative are all locked in. Selectmen incumbents Donald Stewart and Tracy Watson face a challenge this year from political newcomer Adam Sapienza. School committee incumbents Stan Limpert and Brian Gross are running unopposed, as is Frank Rossi, the incumbent for Greater Lawrence Technical High School representative. The election will take place on March 25th at the North Andover High School Gymnasium, so make sure you get out and vote.
And remember, you can meet all of the candidates and hear their different thoughts about North Andover at the Candidates Night event put on by the Andover and North Andover League of Women Voters. It sounds like it'll be a great night.
Always great time.
Definitely. And the event will be held Monday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at Town Hall.
Excellent.
Diving right into some community matters in the environment. A tiny but destructive beetle from Asia known as the emerald ash borer has been discovered in North Andover by the state's Department of Conservation and Recreation. This beetle feeds upon ash trees and, due to its rapid rate of reproduction, causes the host trees to die within 3 to 5 years. The ash trees are abundant in western Massachusetts, specifically in the North Hardwood Forest, as well as in northern New England, and are typically used by cities and towns as trees for sidewalks and parks. the state has detected that the beetle in the wooded areas are inhabiting our town in North Andover near the intersection of Route 125 and Route 133, just in the outskirts of Lake Kachikowick and the Stevens Estate. So definitely be aware of that going into the spring season. A lot going on with the bug population.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of an unfortunate news update, but it happens.
I'm Andrew Maylor, town manager for the town of North Andover, and over the next couple of months, through the good work of the North Andover CAM, I want to provide short videos about different topics that have come up by residents over the last 2 years that I've been here. The first episode today, I want to talk a little bit about the revenues, the fiscal 2014 budgetary revenues. Get a lot of questions about the various revenue sources, in particular taxes. And hopefully through the benefit of this particular broadcast and some slides that I've included, you'll get a greater understanding of how we generate our revenues and how taxation works in the community. The very first slide, which will come up on your screen, provides an overview of the 4 primary categories of revenues that we have in our particular budget in 2014. The largest of which is taxation. As you can see, it represents approximately $63.4 million of an $83.5 million budget, or about 76% of the total revenues that we bring in. 3 other categories are therefore smaller. State aid represents the second largest category of revenues that we bring in a particular year, primarily Chapter 70, which is school aid, and general government aid, which comes in from the state on a regular basis, an annual basis. That amount has started to climb again. It remained largely flat or decreased during the first decade or so of this century. The third category in terms of significance is local receipts, and local receipts includes your motor vehicle excise tax, interest income, and property tax, and it constitutes approximately 10% of all the revenues that we generate in the community. Again, this is a category we haven't seen tremendous growth in the last several years as people have held on to their primary vehicles for longer, and the motor vehicle excise tax hasn't grown to the degree that we would have previously experienced. Another significant portion of the local receipts category are dollars that we receive from the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District in terms of a host fee, and the same thing from Wheelabrator. So between the motor vehicle excise tax and those host or pilot payments that we receive, this category, which represents 10% of the total, about 61% of that 10% comes from those 3 particular categories. And finally is the category we define as other, which represents approximately $1.5 million of all the revenue that we generate, and about 2% of all the revenues. And that category is transfer payments, or what we call indirect costs, that are costs associated with operating the utility systems, the water and sewer utility systems, that are transferred from those systems to the general government side, because part of the activities that are performed by those utility systems are actually happen here at Town Hall or here in other government offices, and therefore they reimburse us for those services. The next slide really gives you an historical view of what's happened relative to the allocation of the different revenues by category. Over the last 10 years or so, we've seen that property tax have taken on an increasing share of the total revenue sources. This is because property taxes grow on an annual basis, as we know, as property tax payers, but also because the other 3 categories have declined or stayed level. So as property tax increases every year, and we'll talk a little bit about Proposition 2.5 as we move forward, as that has continued to increase at some level, even at or slightly above the rate of inflation, and the other categories have leveled out or flattened, the relative percentage of property taxes to all of our revenues has increased. So you can see from the slide from 2005 to 2015 that percentage has grown from about 69% to approximately 76%. I am showing the 2015 level as well on the bar graph, which indicates what I would have projected to happen for 2015. We'll see if that actually happens through the budget process. I am including 2014 figures because we haven't completed the fiscal 2015 budget process, so I wanted to use data that previously had been approved. I'd like to talk a little bit about the largest category, which we previously mentioned is property taxes, and property taxes again constitute about $63.4 million in 2014 of our $83.5 million revenue stream. And of course, therefore, they're the largest category and the one people most often talk about. So I'd like to provide a little more data about that. This next slide, or graph, which is a pie graph, shows the breakdown of what property taxes are by category. So we have two primary categories in consideration of property tax. That generated by residential property taxpayers, single-family homes, two-family homes, condominiums, and that generated by businesses. And I've identified it as business property taxes. In fairness, the business has broken down between commercial taxpayers, industrial taxpayers, and tax on personal property for businesses. But I've combined all those together to just categorize as business-related property tax. And you can see the breakdown that if we just simply divided the property taxes that we raise, 2014 again, 63.4 million, 87% of that, approximately 87%, is borne by the residential property taxpayer here in North Andover. The balance, 13%, approximately, is generated on the business side, commercial, industrial, and what we call personal property. So office space, retail, industrial use is categorized in the business category here. There are two things we're required to do under Massachusetts General Law taxation from a taxation perspective. One is that all property must annually be evaluated or assessed at the full and fair cash value of that property. That's a requirement, and so that happens here through our assessing department. Second, we're required to allocate the property tax between these categories: commercial, industrial, personal property, and residential. Those are legislative requirements. We don't have a choice to just pool them or not choose to assess the properties at full and fair cash value. The third step is optional, and one that many communities have taken advantage of, and this option has been available for nearly 30 years. And that is, after we assess the value of the individual properties and put it into the different categories, the town has the option to choose if it wants to shift some of the tax burden from one category to the next. So think about it as taking some of the tax burden that would normally be borne by the residential taxpayer and moving it to the commercial or industrial taxpayer, to the business. North Andover is one of the communities that in fact has taken advantage of this particular piece of the legislation. And on an annual basis, the Board of Selectmen must vote to make that decision. The next slide takes the pie chart that you've previously seen and shows what actually happens to our taxation. So on the previous slide, what you saw was that about 87% of all of the taxes, property taxes here in North Andover, would normally fall as the burden on the residential taxpayer and 13% on the commercial, industrial, and business taxpayer. And this slide shows what we actually do. So by vote of the Board of Selectmen, we shift approximately 4% of that burden from the residential taxpayer to the business taxpayer. The dollar effect of that, you see at the headline of the particular graph, is about $2.5 million. So of the $63 million we generate in property tax, approximately $2.5 million of that is shifted from the residential taxpayer to the commercial or industrial or business taxpayer. And it gives you some sense of, when we have this tax classification hearing on an annual basis, of what the discussion is about. So again, this last slide reflects the current allocation of property tax between the two primary categories. A couple pieces of important information. Proposition 2.5 is sometimes confused as meaning that the individual tax bill will only increase by no more than 2.5% from one year to the next. In fact, that's not correct. If you look at the tax levy, which is the total amount of taxes we've identified on a couple of different slides, 63.4 million, what the statute says is a community cannot increase that 63.4 million, our tax levy, more than 2.5% from one year to the next. So individual tax bills, depending on the assessed value, can actually increase more or less than the 2.5%. But the total amount of taxes, property taxes generated by a community, can only increase by no more than 2.5%. I will foreshadow that I'm recommending in 2015 that, in fact, for the first time in the town's history, we don't raise to the 2.5% level, that we recognize the burden that property tax has on businesses and residents here in North Andover, and we take steps to make sure that we don't always ask them for the maximum amount allowed. Finally, it's important to understand, as a process mechanism here, we have what's called the Revenue Fixed Cost Review Committee, and their job is to evaluate and make recommendations as to what the revenues are going to be for an upcoming year. So rather than having it done here just within the town manager's office or the finance office, representatives of the school department, finance committee, and town government get together and make estimates based on trends and historical information as to what the available revenues are going to be on the upcoming fiscal year. That helps the communication process and helps reach consensus relative to the revenues that will be used for future budget purposes. So hopefully this has been helpful information, and I look forward to having other videos which will answer some questions that are commonly asked. If there's an opportunity in the future for you to have some additional interest in terms of the kinds of broadcasts we would put on North Andover CAM, we'll make sure that an email address is placed on this particular video. Feel free to shoot me an email about different topics you'd like me to discuss. Thank you and have a great day.
Now with an in-depth update and tour of the newer police headquarters on Osgood Street. Here is Lieutenant Charles Gray.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Charles Gray with the North Andover Police Department. Welcome to the segment on the Journal where we're going to introduce you to your police department, the services we provide, and in the coming months we hope to have numerous segments where the chief's going to speak. We're going to tell you about current crime trends, things going on around town, things to be aware of, and we're also going to introduce you to some of our officers, some of the equipment you see, and maybe give you a tour of this building at 1475 Osgood Street, which we had built in the last 3 years, which is really a wonderful place to work. So one of the first places I wanted to bring you people to is the Communication Center at the North Andover Police Station. This is the heart and soul, the hub of what goes on when you call the business number or 911. And one of the people in charge of this building is LCO John Bonanno, who is basically in charge of the building down here as far as answering the calls, getting the right apparatus moving, getting the police officers to where they're supposed to be. So I'll let him tell you exactly what happens here when you call.
So here in North Andover, we're the primary answering point for all 911 calls, all business line calls, both for police, fire, and the ambulance service, which is covered under the fire department. We operate with 2 full-time dispatchers at all times. We have a primary fire position as well as a primary police position. This position here in the back is for backup. We can cover up to 3 dispatchers in here at times when it might be busy, big storms, different things like that. It's a very busy and stressful environment in here. Our dispatchers are always working hard, helping out the public, all different aspects from animal calls to accidents to domestics, both on the business line and through 911. It's a very busy center at any given time, and as I said, it's a very stressful environment for these people, and they're actively working to take care of the public and the community at all times.
All right, so this part of the station right now is the officer in charge area. It's right outside the communications area. This is the person in charge of the day shift. This is Sergeant Mike Davis. I was fortunate enough to go to the police academy with him back in 2001. And Sergeant Davis is in charge of the day shift. When you call here or come in the station, you'll see him. He's in charge of placing the cruisers around town, answering the calls that come in for a supervisor to address. And Sergeant Davis, why don't you tell us a little more about what's going on today or anything?
Sure. Good morning. Like the lieutenant said, my job as the shift commander is to make sure the officers are assigned to different sectors in town. We have 4 sectors, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I place them in those sectors. They're, responsible for police patrols, handling calls for service, alarms, domestics. We have a multitude of type incidents that they may handle. I also handle any community members that come in, help them with reports, any type of incidents they may need assistance with, and at the same time monitor the communications center to make sure the cars are going where they're supposed to and everybody is handling the calls that come in appropriately. And other than that, I just monitor the radios, monitor the phones, make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, and that's pretty much the day shift sergeant's position.
I understand that a lot of different segments are being done for the Journal, and our hope is, and the Chief's hope is, that enough people watching this are going to realize that they can interact with us through this program. And by sending in questions or asking through North Andover CAM any issues they have or questions they want addressed on camera, on TV, we'd like to do that for you. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone, send an email, text message to North Andover CAM or the police department, ask us some questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Thanks so much for that, and they're doing a great job keeping us all safe here in the community. And what a facility.
Absolutely. It's definitely a step above what we used to have. Not that that was bad, but it's definitely an improvement. And, any renovation that we have here in town always gets a lot of publicity and notice. So we're definitely...
But it's important.
I mean, it's the foundation, it's the bedrock of our community. Not to sound cliche, but,
Absolutely.
they keep us safe.
Yeah. Well, if you're like us and interested in watching town meetings like the school committee, selectmen, board of health, or the planning board when you want, where you want, And on the go, you'll be happy to learn there's another option than just your TV. At North Andover CAM, we stream these town meeting events live on the internet and even allow you to watch the meetings on demand. To show you how to watch these meetings on the internet, we've put together a short video to walk you through our website and help you find the meeting you'd like to watch.
Start with the North Andover CAM website. Type in www.northandovercam.org in the address bar of your computer browser and hit return. You should see a page that looks like this. If you don't have any luck typing in the address bar of your web browser, try typing the name North Andover CAM into your search engine. Once you have found the website, look right under the North Andover CAM logo for a gray bar. Hover your mouse cursor over where it says Channels. When you do this, you'll see what is called a drop-down menu. Follow carefully with your mouse over the Channels box. You will see it lighten up and offer 3 alternatives: CAM Access, CAM Ed, and GovCam. If you move across these 3 options, you will see other menu items. The CAM Ed and GovCam menus will offer you Schedule, Bulletins, or Watch Live. If you would like to watch the channel live, click your mouse pointer while over the Watch Live option, and after a minute or so, a live streaming feed will appear. If you would like to watch a meeting that has already taken place, hold your mouse pointer over the schedule and click it. A calendar will appear. You can go to any date in the past year or so and find a meeting. You do not have to go to the exact date of the meeting. You can find the date the meeting was re-aired. We will pick February 10th. Click on the calendar date. A schedule for the programs that aired on that day will appear. Click on the meeting you would like to watch, and to the right of the day's schedule will appear a list of the days the program will be re-airing, and you will notice a line that says Streaming Feed. Click on the streaming feed, and within a minute or so, a replay of the meeting will appear. You can click on the meeting and make it full screen. If you have trouble, give us a call at 978-687-6570. We are here Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturdays, 9 to 3.
Now that you know how to navigate our site, be sure to contact us with any great ideas for interesting reports about our community, different upcoming events, interesting people you'd like to see us feature on the Journal, anything for future episodes. We are taking a cultural approach, you could say, and we're really looking for different information about restaurants. We know that Restaurant Week is coming up, and just anything that's interesting in the community, whether it's the arts, like we said before, special people to feature. We're open-minded, aren't we?
Right. We need your help.
We do.
Help. Yeah.
We need viewers to send stuff in.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can also email us at thejournal@northandovercam.org or visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/northandovercam.
As always, a special thanks goes out to Brian Frazier and Tiffany Began, our production staff, without whom this would not be possible.
Absolutely. Until next time, I'm Ron Carpenito.
And I'm Morgan Healy.
Take care, North Andover.
Thanks so much for watching.